So this has been something that I've been thinking of ever since we got the flashback expanded upon over in the Bleach anime where they were like actually fighting Yhwach. And that is the question of, did someone like Chojiro actually get weaker? And this kind of also is going to be dealing with like the idea of a prime Yamamoto that everybody seems to think exists. Where they're like, dude, Yamamoto in the past was way stronger despite the fact that he literally says that he's gotten stronger over time and is like using more of his full power in the current era. We're going to talk about all that and more in today's video because I just think it's kind of a fun discussion to have. And if you enjoy Bleach discussions like this, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel. But with all that being said, let's just go ahead and start diving right into this. So where does this actually come from? Like, where is the contention that actually caused me to actually sit down and record this video right now? Well, in the Bleach 1000-Year Blood War anime, we have a scene where we see that Yamamoto is fighting Yhwach in the past. He's kind of giving him the hands. Yamamoto is taking like absolutely no damage, and it looks like Yhwach is just flabbergasted over there, getting crushed by this man. But then we get this additional scene where Chojiro comes out of literally nowhere, stabs Yhwach in the back, and also, if you'll note that scene, if you want to go rewatch it because you don't believe me, Chojiro has like no notable damage at all. He doesn't even seem exhausted. So it's like, not only was Chojiro able to damage a base Yhwach, he didn't even seem like he was that phased during the fight. Like, Yhwach might not have even done any damage to him. And the reason this is kind of crazy is that even though this is just quote-unquote base Yhwach is kind of nutty. This is the same guy that's able to contain Yamamoto's Bankai, the same guy that's able to fight off like an enraged full-bring Bankai Ichigo, the same guy that'll go up and pretty much think nothing of the Zero Division, except for someone like Ichibei. However, even then, you could argue that he fought Ichibei at like a less powered state, right? Because he didn't have the Almighty, which is debatably something that either makes Yhwach stronger, because it's like his complete powers, or it's just a really, really OP power, because Yhwach states in the middle of his fight with Ichibei, at least in the manga, we'll see how the anime does it, that he's finally reached like his complete state in the middle of their fight, and thus he's able to use his Script, the Almighty, and is then able to one-shot Ichibei. Now, I think it makes him stronger, but I've seen some arguments from people saying that like the Almighty is just that broken, that while Yhwach himself might still be around the same level, the Almighty is just that dummy broken. And you guys can have that argument in the comments down below. You guys have fun with that one. But regardless, base Yhwach is still insanely powerful. And this base Yhwach is arguably maybe stronger than the one that we saw at the beginning of the 1000-Year Blood War, depending on if that Yhwach waited until his whole Quincy legend thing was complete. I kind of doubt it. Otherwise, like, how would he have been killed or like, you know, actually taken out like that if he had the Almighty? Maybe he did have the Almighty and he just let himself die and like kind of faked his death. But even if he doesn't have the Almighty, he should be at least in some capacity comparable to the base Yhwach we see in the 1000-Year Blood War, because Yhwach's whole thing is that over 1,000 years, he's regaining his power. Like, he kind of resets every single time. It's not like he's been actively training and like, you know, doing sit-ups and push-ups. He's just been passively getting his power back. And so if someone like Chojiro can stab him in the back, someone this powerful, how is he getting boxed up by a base, bare-handed Ichigo in the Soul Society arc? Well, before we actually talk about that, I think we need to also address the fact that people are arguing that, well, maybe Yhwach was caught off guard by Chojiro because Chojiro did stab him in the back, and that I think is absolutely absurd. You'd be forgetting that Kenpachi in his fight against Ichigo during the Soul Society arc told Ichigo when his hand started bleeding after he tried to attack a Kenpachi that seemed to be giving Ichigo a free hit, even willing to let Ichigo kill him if he was able to. He tells him that the spiritual pressure that is coming off of him subconsciously is stronger than like the active spiritual pressure that Ichigo is using. Now, why does this matter? This matters because it means that even if you're in this relaxed state where you're wanting your opponent to literally kill you, right? Like, you're lowering your spiritual pressure even so they can have the opportunity to one-shot you outright, you still have passive, unconscious spiritual pressure that is giving you some level of durability. You know, you can't just like waltz up to Aizen while he's taking a nap with the Glock and just put him out. Like, you can't just take him out like that. It doesn't work because he would still have some passive Ryatsu keeping him safe. And why I think this is even more ridiculous is the fact that Yhwach is currently in the middle of battle, and to say that his spiritual pressure would be lowered in this moment is absurd. He is literally in the middle of fighting Yamamoto, who has entered his Bankai. So if you think for whatever reason that Yhwach in that moment would be like, now would be a really good time to drop my guard, then you might want to go back to like reasoning 101, because this is not the field for you. That's like saying John Wick goes into the middle of like a room filled with all these goons and he just puts his gun down. I mean, maybe that's a bad example because John Wick could probably take them out, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's like you're purposefully in a combat situation trying to argue that he is lowering his guard for some reason. So this comes back to Chojiro. Chojiro is able to stab him in the back. How is he getting boxed up by Ichigo? Well, I think this is a classic example of Kubo's poetic writing, because you have somebody like Chojiro who honed and trained his Bankai to use it against Yamamoto so that Yamamoto would allow him to serve under him. It is somewhat implied with the Bleach anime's extra scenes that after this point, after Chojiro kind of honed his Bankai, was able to give Yamamoto a scar, and was then accepted to serve under him, that it seemed that he more kind of let things fall to Yamamoto, right? Like when it came to combat, and he would kind of more take care of everything else, almost as if like Chojiro is putting his trust in Yamamoto's strength, after seeing that after he was able to pretty much get to the peak of his power, you know, mastering his Bankai, it was merely only able to give him a little scar on his forehead, right? And personally, I like stuff like that. I think that's very poetic, that Chojiro would just kind of allow himself to kind of fall off and let Yamamoto kind of be the hope for everybody, or kind of rely on his strength to protect everyone, and he would just kind of take care of any of the other mundane things, you know, doing the Soul Society's taxes, or I don't know, being a glorified secretary or something. That would explain how Chojiro kind of fell to the level of a more normal lieutenant, or a more high-end lieutenant, because he still does have his Bankai. Like, there's no way he shouldn't just, like, forget how to use that. But the power may have diminished, right? Because he's no longer, you know, in this bloodthirsty Gote 13 where they're just a band of criminals just absolutely eviscerating everybody around them. As times got more peaceful, he might have gotten more lax, as Yhwach is saying, and didn't keep up with his training and fell by the wayside. Because we know that in Bleach, if you don't maintain your training, you get a lot weaker. Someone like Yoruichi went from being able to just like dookie all over Soy Phone to then being 100 years rusty and kind of having a close life and death battle with them. And that's what would make the most sense. And the reason I kind of feel like I need to make this video as well now that the anime is coming out, because I don't want to see the arguments of people being like, oh, so this means that like base Ichigo in the Soul Society arc is now like universal and could box up Yhwach. If something like that makes sense to you, again, I think you need to go back to reasoning 101 and kind of establish just basic common logic. Is it more likely that a character got complacent over time when we have a lot of narrative beats pointing that out and just got weaker? Or is it that at the very beginning of the series, everybody can fight the god of the verse? If you believe the latter, I think you would also agree that Bleach is very poorly written, which I don't believe it is that poorly written. I know Bleach has some issues and I call them out sometimes, but I don't think it's that bad. I don't think Kubo is a terrible dog water writer. But who knows? I'm sure I'll get like 1 or 2 comments in the comment section of somebody being like, nope, that's it, buddy. Base Ichigo is just universal plus. My man was able to just destroy the universe at the very beginning of the series and could take on literal God, despite the fact that that would be wildly inconsistent with the arc's own scaling, with Ichigo being relative, if not weaker than, one of the stronger captains in Byakuya, and Yamamoto being the strongest captain, being able to take on 2 other captains that are considered peerless among the other captains as well. It's like the arc's own internal scaling wouldn't even match up with that, because Yhwach would be like on par, if not stronger than that Yamamoto, who's stronger than the 2 peerless captains, who's stronger than the 1 captain that Ichigo basically lost to, but you're trying to tell me that you want him to beat the guy that's above all of those other guys. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a bad argument, and hence why this video is being made. Just thought it was an interesting topic. Hope you guys enjoyed. If there's any other Bleach topics you want me to cover, drop those in the comments down below. I am currently working on a Justice League Unlimited Superman video. Just finished watching that, and I think that'll actually surprise a lot of people. There is a Fairy Tail video in the works. I'm about at the halfway point of the series, or like when the art style changes. And so around that point, when I kind of get to where the art style change happens, I think I will do that Loxus versus Yoruichi video that I was talking about. It's either Loxus versus Yoruichi or Loxus versus Grimjow, but I think the lightning aesthetic works a little bit better with Loxus and Yoruichi. But yeah, that's some stuff that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I hope you guys are looking forward to it, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace!